that Kanye's Twitter account is suspended after he tweeted a picture of a swastika merged with the Star of David. Elon Musk replied saying he violated Twitter's rules. And here's Elon saying, responding to Kim.com and Kanye, or to Kim.com, saying, Kanye just clarifying that his account is being suspended for an incident of incitement to violence, not an unflattering pic of me being hosed by Ari. Frankly, I found those pics to be helpful motivation to lose weight. Okay. Anyway, it was the whole rant that we all just went through.
And for those that don't know, what Elon's referencing is Ari Emanuel, who runs Endeavor, which is one of the biggest talent agencies in Hollywood, and they also own the UFC.
Yeah. So Bloomberg says they have sources, and I know what you're thinking. Is that Mark Gurman? And is it about Apple? And you would be correct. Mark Gurman has some sources over some leakers still leaking stuff to Mark at Bloomberg. Apple ramps up work on a mixed reality headset set to launch as early as 2023 and renames its operating system from Reality OS to XR OS, short for Extended Reality. So it looks like Apple might be embracing the nomenclature of XR for all things, like they did iMac. Everything will be XR OS, and whatever the device will be called will probably refer to XR, and everything will be extended reality because they like the idea of extending reality instead of artificial.
Instead of mixed reality, they call it extended reality.
Yeah, I think that sounds very Apple-y, by the way, that they would take that option. And they're ramping up work on a mixed reality headset or an extended reality headset, as they will no doubt brand it. Its first major new product category since the Apple Watch. Okay. Next year, here it comes. They have two big marquee events each year. One around April, which is the Worldwide Developer Conference, or May or June. And then the first or second Tuesday in September is when they always launch the new iPhones. So it'll almost certainly be one of those two events. And it could be either, but in many ways it would make more sense to do the earlier one, the Worldwide Developer Conference, so that all the developers can start developing for that new platform. So expect to see that in the first half of 2023. The next is...
And they probably need to do that because they're going to have a big fail on the 14 Pro Max because it's the supply is constrained by something like 15 billion worth of sales
It's
because
possible
of the lockdowns.
they announced the iPhone 15 and those older, the iPhone 14 Pro hasn't got it. Hope they won't put those AR glasses in Chinese factory as well.
Okay, next up from the Atlantic, a look at some implications for generative AI. And generative AI is things like Dolly 2 and GPT-3 and whatnot. And it says answer engines replacing search engines, AI mastering cognitive tasks by surveilling how experts work, and more. So they're doing a deep dive on the implications of generative AI and how it catches a lot of people by surprise. And that's absolutely true. And I guess, let me look at the rest of the stories today. Is there a story about GPT chat, or chat GPT as they're calling it? I got to touch it myself today. I wonder if anyone else did. I saw lots of beyond impressive examples of things that it could do, where somebody even like they're going to do a deep dive on it today on the All In podcast, and somebody asked GPT to what do you think the dialogue will be between the characters on the podcast, the members of the podcast, and it did it, and it was very convincing, and people put in it's really, really, really impressive. and it's going to continue to get more and more and more impressive um, at a equal, if not faster rate than it has previously for the foreseeable future. So, which means it's soon going to be truly mind-blowingly impressive. So much, I was thinking about this today, because the dialogue that it was able to generate, you could say, make a Shakespearean play about Kanye, visiting Auschwitz or something. Obviously, my imagination's tainted by the last topic, but um, it does it, and it does it better than you think it's going to do it. And matter of fact, it does it better. Oh, somebody did one about a Tarantino style. Oh yeah, that was the All In podcast one. It was like, make uh, 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 a screenplay in the stylings of Terrence Quintino, of the podcast members discussing the launch of GPT chat, and it does it in a way that's better than you would imagine, than you would do if I asked you to do that. And so it's
Yeah, yeah. So Tyler, the other thing as well, I think what's amazing about it is not only is it good at being creative, doing really creative things like outputs, but it's also brutally amazing at being analytical as well, right? I think I
yeah,
saw it generate like some business analysis. I think he was asking like, what would you do if you're a cash constrained EV startup
right,
and you haven't got any good relationship with your suppliers? And it just outputs like something ridiculously amazing as a business decision you could take that is better. People are saying that it's better than some MBA students would output.
right,
Like
right. That's
that's
my
also
point.
ridiculously mind blowing.
Right. It's concerningly impressive, and it's going to get a lot. And it's going to. The weird thing is, with there's rumblings of GPT-4 betas in the background, which I cannot wait to see how this things like GPT chat and Dolly improve. Uh, when we get to the fourth generation of things, and fifth and sixth and seventh, because we're already at the like, holy shit, this is better than I would have done, and I'm a human. Oh, by the way, if you haven't done that, go look at all of the examples people are tweeting, and without fail, every single person tweeting is saying "holy shit," and these are smart people tweeting this stuff.
Hey Tyler,
And
can I add an
yeah,
angle to that earlier business
sure,
one,
yeah,
which is it's not just the you know analysis or the written content that it's putting out. The AIs are using they're using analytics tools, as you know, and so the example that was just given about the business case that's better than the MBA student, it's a big issue in the legal field, because not only can you use it to say, edit your briefs or something like that, it's you can use it to evaluate cases. Should this case go forward? What's the likelihood? What are the potential outcomes, et cetera? And in the legal field, because attorneys are so great, nobody can do our job. It's You're not allowed to practice law without being an attorney, and so AI is not an attorney, even if it's supervised by an attorney. So there's a huge issue around this, and it can tell you, should you go forward with the case, or you got a DUI? Should you bother hiring an attorney? And it's a big issue in the it's squashed in a lot of states. You're not allowed to use those tools because they are practicing law without being an attorney, which I find hilarious. I can't wait till this stuff comes out. And because one, the
Yeah,
business analytics is huge. Two, yeah, business analytics like that, why wouldn't you be able to do that? That's awesome, and you should have that. It's just pulling data from across, prior case law, prior outcomes, et cetera, or redlining contracts. Awesome. And it will also bring bring those resources to people who are underserved, both, you know, family law, small businesses, et cetera. But right now, lawyers are really trying to stop that.
Yeah,
doesn't
Jennifer, I was actually
Yeah.
thinking of using it. I have a very complex term sheet to evaluate one of our portfolio companies that I probably should call my lawyer and pay $1,000 an hour to have a look, because it could be consequential for my fund. But I could probably run it through GPT-3, and it could really, this chat GPT-3, chat GPT, and it could probably give me a very good high quality answer for almost nothing. So
If
that's
it's
what I'm thinking
programmed for
about.
that,
Just
if it's
I could
programmed for
use,
that, but the
yeah.
tools that are coming out to do that, if they allow the build of those tools, it will give you a much higher quality answer than even a senior partner could. You'll still need that nuance for very complex things. You'll need the nuance of a good attorney. But again, like any other profession, there's a lot of good and bad, a lot of bad attorneys out there, people that aren't going to catch this. And so I think it's a highly valuable tool. And again, to your point, if your attorney is good and only $1,000 an hour, that's probably a steal. I mean, it could, and I've seen the GTP3 that rereads like the shares, like corporate documents and shares, which I'm an attorney and I can't understand those. I mean, it takes me hours, and it just puts it into plain English, and it's amazing.
Hey, Jennifer and group, it would be, this is Rob, it would be very fascinating for where they say the AI isn't an attorney if someone who had one of these actually had their AI personality take the bar and then they start hanging their shingles because I'm assuming the AI probably could do the exams better than a human.
It probably could, but you don't even need to go that far. It's stupid. Why can't we use a tool that's out there? It's the same thing. Paralegals aren't allowed to practice law. It has to all be under an attorney. And now in certain states they've expanded that, but that's ridiculous. There's plenty of paralegals or other people who are better than attorneys. And this is the only places, the earlier places that this was expanded, my understanding was DC, to allow lobbyists, because I guess they are practicing law. And you'll see some big firms, like some of the big consulting firms, who are borderline practicing, in the area of law, and so they get exceptions there. But it's stupid. First off, it's a tool. Law, anything that happens in a law office has to happen under the supervision of the attorney. So why wouldn't we be able to use those tools to save costs for our clients? And honestly, I run our junior associates some of their communications through some of these AIs, and it cleans up their language and makes it so much nicer. Like, I mean, so much more effective, clearer, etc. So I'm just going to say, and there's plenty of shitty attorneys out there. I think they're great, and I think the argument is stupid, or that they have a right to these. They argue that they're going to be replaced by AI and that to take away their business. And I don't think that's a valid argument. And I think that goes across the board to all the industries that are claiming that AI is taking their jobs. It's that, we are evolving, the world evolves and we're going to next stages. I mean, as I say, the shovel didn't get to tell the backhoe, you're taking my job. So we're going to evolve. And I think that I love the AI coming into the legal field. I think it's awesome.
So Jennifer, then maybe I should take the Synthesia version of you and make it you're the lawyer, and then use that as the back end, and then you can make all the money.
Dude, that thing's not advanced enough yet. It still looks like a little robot. No, not going to work.
No, I'll show you better versions of it.
I'm all for it. And we outsource, legal firms have been outsourcing to other countries who are not credentialed to you can always tell when people are outsourcing, especially legal documents, to other countries because they're not quite right in their analysis. I mean, in the writings. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
I
low,
mean,
super
Jennifer, I'll
low
give you a
quality.
very simple
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
A very simple example. You have so many startups in Africa that are incorporated in the US now, but it's very new because of safes and convertible notes and founder friendly and just the platforms like AngelList. And, those are like much more standardized around the world. But in parts of Africa, the lawyers are still like, running off some, French law or colonial mindset and how they think about it, or don't even understand startups. But they see the startups going around them and asking them, "Hey, can you draft me a convertible note?" And they're charging ridiculous fees that they don't know what they're doing, But they could potentially, and they're often outsourced out, and typically for bigger projects like infrastructure, power generation, you know. Yeah, and they often have very strange local laws, where they can add context. But yeah, they would easily benefit from using this to help them level up and understand how to say do U.S.
100%.
law for startups.
100%. Plus, and a similar example, though, is that this happens the same as it does with other professions. Well, one, companies will take contracts. I can just tell when they've taken a contract and they've outsourced it to somebody because the language that the person uses when they're redlining is kind of correct, but not correct in context. So it doesn't look at the bigger picture. It's definitely someone who has been given 100 examples and said, this is how we want this to look. And so they've inserted that language, but they don't understand the context. So it's not exactly right. To your point, usually you can tell it's been outsourced to India or the Philippines or somewhere, same with support call centers. And that's attorneys here outsourcing that work and then charging as if they've done it or using it. And we have people here. I know of one example that was someone who was, I think he had 6 or 7 jobs at once, Intel, Accenture, I can't remember who all the other companies were. So this attorney's pulling down a lot of money, but he was outsourcing his work. And I personally know of this because I came in right behind him. But so yeah, there's different, and that's human. But if we can use AI, that's awesome. And I've seen the AI, I've seen tools, they're out there. Legal tech is coming, but it is, again, they have these ethics issues, but that can redline contracts, and that's awesome. You'll take out 80% of my upfront work if I just have to come in behind that and say, yeah, that's right, or no, that's not right. You've done the initial work, and it's fabulous.
What will happen to billable hours, though?
They'll go down, as they should. I mean, and you'll provide much more legal access to people who need it, who are not getting it.
So I want to give an example so that people can get a sense. The simplest example I could find is somebody asked it to, can you write me a tweet about the future of AI in the style of Yeats, the author, novelist, and so it must know the works of Yeats to do his style. And if you know his style, then this is even more impressive. That it constrained itself to the limitations of a tweet and the stylings of Yeats. So it says, sure, here's a tweet-length poem in the style of Yeats about the future of AI. Here we go. As machines grow wise, we humans thrive. In a world where AI helps us to survive. With their boundless knowledge, they'll be our guide, and together we'll build a future side by side. And the person who received that says, do another one. Sure. AI, the bard of the digital age, with their algorithms, they turn the page. In the future, they'll be our trusted friend, and with their help, our dreams will never end. And the person says,
That's
great.
fascinating.
The
I love
I
Gates, so
love
that's
that too,
fascinating.
because it's the human, they said side by side, which is the term artificial brilliance, which is human plus AI. That's
Watch
the,
this. The guy says, great, do another one, but differently. And the AI responds, AI, the dark horse of the tech world, their advancements, they'll soon unfurl. That's an interesting rhyme, world and unfurl. In the future, they'll rule with an iron hand and will be left to walk in their shadowed land.
Oh,
that's it. I'm unplugging all my machines. Forget it.
The
Uh,
scary part is it's so creative and so brutal at the same time. It's like
right.
that's the bit
But
that's scary.
Its machine-like efficiency is
I
amazing.
saw I saw one example that I'm dying to find where it made an incredibly witty pun on the word calculate, and the person who asked for the prompt says, "Do you understand?" Or they said, "Very clever pun on the word calculate. Can you explain the pun?" And it did better than any human could explain why the double usage of the word calculate. And that's when I lost it. That's when I was like, oh my God, it deeply understands the construction of the double entendre of that word and why that's funny. It understands. And so if it continues to do that, then it will. What's so, to me, so interesting about that is if it understands the engineering algorithms of humor, like that, because that's what humor is when you use words that have dual meanings in very clever, cheeky ways. Us humans think that's funny. Our brain says, "Oh, that's funny and clever. You found a double meaning of a word," and um, there is patterns to humor, and these machines, these AIs, are masterful, godlike at deconstructing patterns. And so it's very possible now. I realized that when I saw that, oh dear God, it understands the algorithms of human humor that we ourselves don't fully understand. To us, it's black magic, that it's some kind of dark art that some people master. Comedians will tell you it's a process. There are patterns that they, just like poets, just like novelists and songwriters. Any good songwriter, of which I am one, will tell you songwriting is patterns, and so is comedy, as comedians will tell you. There is an art to it that you can master and improve at over time, like chess, so and poker. So if the computers can master chess and poker, as they're starting to do. They certainly mastered chess thoroughly, and they're getting to the point of mastering poker. And if they get further into this deconstruction of algorithms that we ourselves don't understand that there is patterns to, like songwriting, like humor, then I really believe now that it's possible the best humor will come from AIs going
So,
forward.
so the triumph of explainable AI would be if it could explain the process and the algorithms so that most people could understand them at the depth that you're describing.
Or I think in addition to how fast the AI is growing in terms of understanding humans, it's very, plausible that soon they will exceed to the point where human won't be able to communicate with them. Hence, I'm just saying perhaps Neuralink is going to be helpful there or something of that sort where we would need additional enhancement in terms of understanding and way our neural networks work so that we could associate or interact with AI. Otherwise, it's in infancy right now, and look how complicated situations and patterns of human beings that took years to develop. AI is kind of understanding, breaking it down, and creating it. So, yes, I think it's a Neuralink kind of like I'm trying to uh, make a case here for my own self because previously I was like, no, Neuralink, no. But now I see a use case here, perhaps through some kind of interaction with AI in the future would require this enhancement in our brain. Otherwise, we will be obsolete.
I actually want to go back to Ellie's
Let's
comment.
look
I
at
think that's
Elon Musk.
really relevant. No, wait, can I just say really quickly, because Ellie, because the big issue right now is ethics in AI, or a big issue, right? And a lot of them, the issue is that you can't figure out from super complex, multi-layered algorithms such as Facebook. It's very hard for it to explain how it got exactly to that biased answer other than output. So if it could start explaining its algorithm, which is what regulators think they could do, I still think that's way far out there, but that would be fabulous for good
You
use.
know what
But
the new biggest
Elon
threat
Musk's motivation for Neuralink to get into Neuralink was exactly that, Arams, that we can still compete with AI in the future because that's one of his fears. So.
Which is kind of ridiculous because it's kind of giving something intimate access to everything that you think you do, and think that you can be pwned by it online, but somehow you won't be pwned by it in that setting.
Well, here's the scarier thought. You sync this up with those new RoboCops that they have in California. That can now shoot you and set off bombs. Have fun with that. I'm
So
not sure we
actually,
have it.
that's a motivation of DARPA's interest in neural interfacing, because the idea is to minimize the delays while keeping a human in the kill loop, right? So the idea is to bypass the optic nerve and the muscular response for pressing a button, just minimize the decision path, and hopefully it doesn't wind up being used in civilian policing, honestly.
So check this
Well,
out.
did anyone see the new series Feed on Amazon Prime, where everyone is hooked up to one big feed, and you can experience other people's life situations if you're allowed to in their head. So it's basically it's really interesting if you think of Elon Musk having Neuralink and Twitter, he could really do this. What they um, say and feed. Like it's really interesting if you're
Okay,
interested. Watch.
All I want with Neuralink is to be able to plug something into my head, learn something in 10 minutes, and then I'm happy, just like in the Matrix.
Whoa, I
okay.
know Kung Fu.
So this guy named Guy, who I just pinned to the top of the room, did a tweet where a lot of people are trying lots of interesting things with GPT or Chat GPT as it's called. And here's what he did. He says, uh, here's his prompt or input. He says, "Hey, I'm trying to come up with some interesting, fantastical ways of decorating a living room for a design project." And the response was, "Sure, there are many fantastical ways you could go about decorating a living room. Here are a few ideas to get you started." And it gives him three Examples. Number one, create a fairy tale inspired living room by using pastel colors and adding elements like magical castle murals on one wall, a chandelier, blah, blah. And then it says number two, transform the living room into an enchanted forest by hanging green fabric from the ceiling to create a canopy effect, blah, blah, blah. Number three, make a living room into a futuristic space by using sleek, modern furniture, da, da, da. Now, he took those three results and plugged them into a text to image AI generator, of which there are now many. He used Midjourney, very similar to Dolly 2, and he pasted the results from Midjourney of the Chat GPT's ideas in text, then converted into actual images so that he could visually see these. So you have an AI double tasking here, creating the ideas and then converting the text ideas into visuals. And you can see them by clicking on the link at the top of the room or going to the Tech News Twitter account or my own personal Twitter account in my bio. And I defy you as a human. And keep in mind, this is done as fast as you can type in the fucking shit instantly for free. And look at the results, the quality of the results that came out of this, of imagining a fantastic. These are unbelievably, unbelievably. I you would have to pay somebody at the top of their game on a very considerable sums and very considerable amount of time and an incredible amount of conversation would need to occur in meetings and Skype, Zoom calls, and reiterations to achieve this effect, which is now being done for free instantly.
How does this not dramatically affect half of the jobs in the next 12 months?
And it's on version 3. Wait till
Google
version
should be
4.
very worried. Google should be very worried because it's also going to just completely annihilate their search, which has not really evolved so much. I think this is going to be huge for search. So if I was Google now, I would be very, very worried.
Now, so somebody, where did it go? I think it's the next story, actually. No, it's not. But no, here it is. Who did this story? Somebody did a story of how it's GPT is giving responses back that scare people in its ability to understand your question. It seems to understand your question better than people will. If you ask people, a human, the same question, and so as such, it's causing a lot of people on Twitter to surmise that Google's days are numbered, and not just ordinary people. Who was the Paul Boucher? Paul Boucher, by the way, was the creator of Gmail. And even he says Google may be only a year or two away from total disruption. AI will eliminate the search engine result page, which in our industry is called a SERP, S-E-R-P. Search engine results pages, that's what you get when Google gives you results on a result page. That he says those are going away, which is where they make all of their money because they put the ads on the search engine result page. If they catch up on AI, they can't fully deploy it without destroying the most valuable part of their business. And that is a brilliant point by Paul, that Google, if they, the reason they can't compete is because they're going to have to show ads. That's how their business runs. And they're not going to be able to show ads to compete with the likes of GPT chat or what have you.
That doesn't stop them from, DeepMind coming up with something equally capable and packaging it as a different product simply to compete.
He goes on to, this is a tweet thread that I'm going to retweet here momentarily from the Tech News Twitter account. If you'll give me 2 seconds so that you all can read it. I'll pin it to the top there. Paul's obviously a super sharp dude, knows Google better than nearly anybody. And So his comments here about AI threatening Google fundamentally is worth considering. He goes on to say it's a tweet thread of about 4 tweets. He says, the way I imagine this happening is that the URL search bar of the browser gets replaced with an AI that auto completes my thought question as I type it, while also providing the best answer. That's kind of genius in and of itself. So you start typing in the search address bar whatever you want to query. As soon as it knows what you're querying, and it will before you finish, it starts providing answers in real time on the page below you, on a blank black or white page, while also providing the best answer, which may be a link to a website or not. The old search engine backend will be used by the AI to gather relevant information and links, which will then be summarized for the user. It's like asking a professional human researcher to do the work, except the AI will instantly do what they would take the human many minutes to do. One thing that few people remember is the pre-internet business that Google killed, which was the Yellow Pages. The Yellow Pages used to be a great business, but then Google got so good that everyone stopped using the Yellow Pages. AI will do the same thing to search. You'll stop using search, just like you stopped using the Yellow Pages.
It will go one step further or multiple step further. Instead of you searching something, it can suggest that, oh, you're asking the wrong question. This is what you need instead, based on your current this condition. So the AI have the capacity to not only read your thoughts, but also to determine if this question or this line of inquisition is better for you or something else. So in future you may even lose the autonomy to search for things that you want to search when AI is making the decisions for you.
You're
Yeah,
not
so
asking
Ram,
a good question. Here's a
I was
better
thinking,
one.
yeah, I was thinking about, say, in your field, Ram, in the medical field, it could lead someone down the path of not asking the wrong question about their state, right? So they would actually have more context based on who they are, and their current condition, what they're taking, it would probably do a better job in knowing if you combine it with, like, Google Fit or Fitbit and other sensors. It would be really disruptive and quite useful, and avoid someone getting in
Exactly.
trouble when they search something over the weekend.
Yeah.
Dr. AI.
Okay, sorry. A couple of just examples. There are people who come up and say, "Oh, I'm having indigestion because I ate something," and then you figure out after questioning, correct questioning, that the indigestion is because of the stress they are under and is related to some other metabolic issues. But people do come up with stories, right? So we tell ourselves stories based on our own limited knowledge, and these stories kind of make a difference in our life in terms of what kind of solution we seek or don't seek. So AI sitting there, knowing everything about you, can say, oh, no, this is not just stress. This is like that problem in the past, or this is the problem in your physical, whatever, vital signs or labs that's causing you this. So the possibilities are endless. My point is, at what point the autonomy of human beings supersede AI decision making, even if the AI decision making is better for us?
Well, I think right now, if we look at something like Facebook's most recent experiments with their bot that took academic papers and tried to write new ones, it turned out to be complete horseshit. So I'm not sure how to feel about that with respect to, okay, yeah, for diagnostics, it might not be appropriate. For hypothesis generation with a physician to amplify the skills of existing humans, I think we should stop trying to replace humans and amplify those who remain. Almost in every field, the term or the phrase, islands of excellence in an ocean of mediocrity describes pretty much the ability or skill level of people for any profession. So, if we can get those few islands of excellence to increase their carrying capacity, or with the doctor amplify their reach so that they can provide more care to more people, I think that's great. But to take the humans out of the loop, I think that's been shown time and time again to have critical pitfalls here and there. And I don't know, at least for the future, you can always just say, I'm an AI babysitter. That's a job that's
Eric,
probably not going to go away for a while.
you're going back to what I mean. That's a circular discussion, right? Which is what we said earlier: is that it's a tool that can be used, and it will actually enhance any many practitioners, not just the excellence, right? So, it'll be artificial brilliance. It's keeping the human in the loop, and these are
Oh yeah,
tools.
I agree with you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're in agreement in that. Yeah.
yeah.
But using it effectively is kind of a critical reasoning skill that I think needs to be developed further, because people can come to use them, come to be impressed with them, come to rely on them, and just kind of be lulled into just always going with the recommendation. At that point, they're not meaningfully involved in the loop.
Yeah, and if you don't know the details of the loop, like for example, if I was doing genetic analysis and I didn't know the method of principal component analysis and I didn't understand its pitfalls, but I was just using it for inference of ancestry and then I was just all happy about that. And then I run for president and my name is Elizabeth Warren, then maybe things don't work out so well for me if I'm not so careful. So I think history has a few lessons like that.
So somebody named Ben Tossell has compiled and compiled all of his favorite tweets that people are giving of how them playing with this, and I've just retweeted that. And there's some really, I mean, they're very, very diverse. I mean, it's incredibly every developer's shitting themselves over how good it is at suggesting code for things in any language you want, and finding bugs and explaining why there's the bug there, and all kinds of interesting things. And then there's the other end of the extreme, kind of very human things, where somebody puts in a prompt of, what should I, essentially tell my girlfriend when she says she's feeling insecure? The answer, I've got to find that one again, because the answer that it gives is better than 99.99% of what a partner would normally say to somebody. It's it would win a competition for its response and what to say to somebody when they're saying they're feeling insecure.
So the
Isn't it
robot's going to
And
get
now
laid.
for everyone to guess the
So can I
response?
so,
use the API to auto respond to all my Tinder comments then?
well, here's my point: is we got to find it and read it, the response, so that we can verify what I'm saying, because it's of critical importance what I'm this particular use case, because it means that having a text-based relationship with somebody, as many relationships start out as now in Tinder, as Tom's saying, um, would be vastly improved and more fulfilling with an AI than with a human. And how far can that go? Especially if you could start doing video calls with an avatar designed to look exactly as you want, with a voice that could be also optimized, and this person that you could do FaceTime calls with, which is a deep fake of a person that doesn't actually exist, but has the ability to communicate as a partner far better than 99.99% of humans. So,
Hey, Tyler, what was Michael's friend way
yes,
back?
yes, Michael was using an app
Oh
called,
yes.
well, Jean Francois would know perfectly. He was using Jean Francois's app as well.
Leah 27, I think.
Yeah, Jean Francois was called Leah, but there was another one that Michael played with momentarily. It was a because Jean's was designed so that it couldn't do anything romantic.
Are you sure
Uh,
Michael played the AI, or the AI played Michael?
but the other one that you can sort of virtually date, even Michael said back, this is going back a year ago, and he was already blown away. And I believe that was pre GPT-3, around the time GPT-3 came out. But reading these results of that people are tweeting today, this seems like a notable improvement that might make that use case even much more compelling for a lot of people.
But I'm curious to
Yeah,
know the
but
answer. Is it supposed to be please be confident, or if it's meant to be, it's meant to be?
The thing is, Tyler, that the AI can collect all the data of human behavior and their past patterns and generate responses specific to this person that another person online can use to respond to. Oh, my girlfriend should feel supported when I mention these words or these sentences to her based on her history. AI can help with that kind of response online. But what and when they are face to face, and this person is now responding according to his own understanding, which is going to completely contradict the prior experience online.
Yeah, well, it sounds
So,
like if he doesn't engage enough with the robot to understand why he needs to say that, then he might not get lucky. So it's a Darwinian problem at that point.
well, and the thing is that that is kind of like not being true to himself and not going to generate human to human long term relationship, because you seem different and you're not responding the same way now because online you said something that really helped, and now you are, why are you being such, a person? So it's going to generate these issues. And in future, if every single one of them are using these generated responses, then it's going to be generic. Human are unique based on their own unique patterns. They generate different responses, different understandings, and AI is going to eradicate that.
Now,
So
now I realize yeah, the Venus and the Mars thing. I think men
But
and women really think very differently.
You could take this further, and Robin, you could have the two synthetic versions of the the couple, potential couple, interact with each other and give and maybe report back to them, to you, and tell you actually you're not a fit for this person based on the synthetic version of the other side. You should move on. It could actually save a lot of time, because when you're dating, you're often spending a
Exactly.
lot of time getting to know each other. So it could actually make it more efficient for you to move on, make it faster to swipe left.
Yeah, the AI is like, hey, our pet humans are not a good match. Let's rotate. Okay, it's not a
I
good
I
match.
was I was thinking, imagining a psychologist who completely understand your inner working of your brain and your responses and emotional connections, but now turn it into somebody who you physically like, somebody who is completely the way you expect your opposite, your partner to be, and making this like a la carte kind of a psychologist who totally deeply meet all your emotional needs and your psychological needs, and is just in a virtual setting. So those kind of interaction will be so deeply satisfying that you will even perhaps refuse communicating with other human beings because it's going to be too cumbersome for you to deal with their emotional responses, right? So you're getting addicted to a perfect AI generated interaction that uh, removes you from the tolerance of interacting with normal human beings.
Actually, yeah, in those
These
cases where people have a tendency to interact more with AI systems, and the AI systems don't have the kind of social cues or just fault tolerances for abusive behavior, for example. So you can very quickly become used to a certain way of speaking to Siri that then spills over to how you speak to humans. So I thought that was a rather interesting study that actually forced Apple to do that. So if you want to go and no, not go and do an abusive test on Siri, because that sounds awful, but in the name of science, you can see that if you try to interact with some of these voice assistants, they will not engage if your language is too hostile or violent or of that sort. So it's interesting to note. And if you babble too much, one time I tried sending this long text message and Siri just went on this weird tangent. I said, "What?" And she said, "Exactly. Try to be more succinct. Let's try that again. What's the message you want to send?" And at that point, I knew it was over for humanity.
These conversations are normally one that I would just love to spend a huge amount of time diving into, but a book I read has spoilt them for me, and that was Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom. It's not a new book; it's 8 years old now, 2014. But he's a philosopher, and he wrote this book. And basically, by the end of it, I realized I know so little about the topic, even how to approach the topic from a philosophy point of view, that I just, even though I've written some AIs and I love all this stuff, I just feel totally unable to discuss it, unfortunately, which is a shame. But if anyone does want their experience ruined or enriched, because I think, to be honest, the book just went over my head. It's a bit too clever for me.
So,
Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom is a really cool overview. What it is really encouraging is that there are some very intelligent people thinking about this topic very deeply and have been for a long time, which is fantastic. So I'm in the leave it to them crowd. I didn't realize it was so nuanced and already so advanced as a philosophy. So for me, trying to talk about it would be like me trying to talk about crochet with my wife or something.
so
It's beyond me.
a little background about Bostrom. He was actually really good on ethics around advanced nanotechnology, the kind of super advanced stuff that I work on. But he's also the source of the simulation hypothesis, which I describe as metaphysics masquerading as math. It is deeply flawed. So there is an element of sophistry to some of the things that he puts out.
Sure, that is just one of many, though. You can look at a lot of AI ethics researchers on Numberphile and on YouTube, and you can read other books about it as you would. The simulation hypothesis, Elon Musk's a pretty big fan of that as well. So, just out of interest, it's that's one that should be debated one day, but it's probably beyond this room. But my point is that there are a lot of very advanced AI ethics researchers out there who go through this quite carefully, and it's quite humbling to me how carefully some groups of people have thought about it. And it's an active research topic area, of course.
Apple's extended reality operating system. I envision, no evidence, that it'll be a small headset, glasses, that'll be AI connected when they release, and it'll be imperceptible. Something just as easy as regular spectacles or optic of glasses, and it'll guide our life in the metaverse, which will probably be more reality of real life, but guided by AI in your ear. I don't see why not.
Okay, so the next tech story. Parler's owners say it has mutually agreed with Kanye to terminate the intent of sale of Parler. DeepMind unveils Deep Nash, an AI agent that matches human experts in the board game called Stratego by combining game theory and model-free deep reinforcement learning. Palmer Luckey's Anduril, which builds autonomous systems for the U.S. military, raised nearly $1.5 billion at a $7 billion pre-money valuation, the second biggest venture capital round of the year. Stripe debuts a customizable fiat-to-crypto payments widget to directly embed into Web3 apps. Stripe to handle the KYC checks, fraud, and compliance. Financial Times says they have sources that Alameda sheltered FTX from approximately a $1 billion loss in April 2021 after the FTX traders' mobile coin trade went bad, wiping out Alameda's profits. Insider.com says they have sources that Andreessen Horowitz's Future, with a capital F, is shutting down. Future hasn't published a new article in months. Most of its editorial staff have left, and its newsletter is defunct. Future was the next big thing in media. Well, not really, but I think it was Andreessen Horowitz wanted to show what the future of media could look like. CNBC says the U.S. Department of Justice has requested that an independent examiner be appointed to review substantial and serious allegations of fraud and dishonesty in FTX's bankruptcy. That's not good news for our friend Sam. And TechCrunch says they have sources that Bloom Tech, previously the Lambda School, is cutting half of its staff. New York Times says a video and live blog of SBF being interviewed at the New York Times' summit. Yeah, we went over that all yesterday. Apple reached 25% of smartphone market share in China in October. And Coinbase says Apple blocked our last wallet iOS app release until the exchange disabled sending NFTs, claiming Apple wanted a 30% cut from the gas fees for the exchange of the NFTs. Interesting. Epic Games makes its Reality Scan app, which lets users scan real-life objects and turn them into 3D models, available for free in iOS. There you go. That's going to be dope. That's how you make the metaverse, is you let every person with an iPhone 12 or better scan anything with the LiDAR scanner or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, because up until
On
now, you had to do the photogrammetry and use two or three pieces of software. Even though there were free solutions, it was clunky. And so, for a game developer to say, hey, you know what? I want that rock in my world. I remember watching Mandalorian and thinking, hey, I think I recognize those rocks. Are those Unreal Engine rocks? And yeah, they were. So it would be nice to see some new patterns or textures that aren't all just the same. So the really cool stuff is when they scan like a rock, or you put a rock that looks so real that people can't tell the difference. So and then it turns out to be a real rock, but then it's a metaverse kind of thing. So I think it's a great example of a game engine kind of giving tools to developers to let them kind of make stuff much easier. So really excited to use it.
SpaceX gets approval to deploy 7,500 next generation new and improved Starlink internet satellites and has applied for nearly 30,000. TikTok and Bumble plan to use a new database of hashes of nude images and videos to block revenge porn. Meta has been using it since last year. And their Wirecard, which was a German fintech company that was valued at $24 billion, imploded, and now the trial of the three executives has begun, ostensibly in Germany, I assume. There you go. Those are your big boring headlines for today. Now we do the tweets. Did anyone have a tweet since we met last time? There's a new update on the top stories. Wall Street Journal says they have sources. Twitter offers advertisers generous incentives, including matching $500,000 to $1 million in spending in 2022 in a bid to jumpstart its faltering ad business. So they'll match. You get half off, basically. If you spend 500,000, they'll give you an extra 500,000. They'll match your spending. There you go. Okay. Ian Bremmer had a tweet that I'm now retweeting, where he's quoting Forbes. And in fact, he shares the Forbes article. So here's the link to the Forbes article, pinned to the top of the room for your viewing pleasure. And it says, this is a Forbes article. Are you ready? This is now 2 days in a row. I can't believe this is happening now. After my nightly rants going back a year on this issue, when the mainstream media was very silent on this issue, aside from The Guardian and the BBC, and I was just accusing the US media of not covering this story. And now, here's the Forbes article pinned to the top of the room. The headline says, and it's also an editor's pick, no less. So this is not, it's the staff writers are Emily Baker White and Ian Martin, and the editors are letting you know that the editors of Forbes really are putting this out in front. And the headline is, on TikTok, Chinese state media pushes divisive videos about US politicians. So now, the Forbes is mainstream media. It's in that universe. These outlets who didn't some tech bro come in here and was literally screaming about the silence on behalf of American mainstream media over the shenanigans of the CCP backed TikTok and their agenda to destabilize America, while mainstream media was obsessed with taking down Facebook and Instagram, which was called the Facebook Files, with the Frances Haugen whistleblowing, and Facebook was oh so evil. And every day for 2 weeks, they came out with more and more files trying to convince everybody just how evil Facebook is for the kids. And crickets about what was happening over in TikTok, when far more egregious things were happening over in TikTok. And now, yesterday, Bloomberg writes an article about the blackout challenge, how children are repeatedly getting sucked into these deadly challenges in TikTok. That was Bloomberg yesterday. And now today, Forbes saying that the Chinese state media is the CCP essentially is pushing, trying to divide Americans on politics. A year later. Can somebody explain the interesting coincidence of these two coming out back to back a year after the fact?
Tyler, maybe after so many tries of this journalist, because yesterday somebody mentioned that she actually followed the story a very long time. So
Right.
finally, maybe these manager level realized the importance of this.
So now, yeah, but now the editor put it as an editor's pick, which tells me that the editor likes this story, might have even asked for it. Said, hey, Emily and Ian, why don't you write this story? I want someone to write a story about this. Why is Forbes promoting at the editor level this narrative? That means Forbes editors want to promote this narrative. They might have had a hand in it, as editors often do. And what's going on now that Bloomberg and Forbes are now simultaneously, although I take your point that you just made, BB, but this is a bit odd that 2 days when we went for a long time with not much, and now 2 days in a row, two notable publications are both coming out very heavy with, even I mean I'm as strong as a TikTok critic as you might ever find, and even I'm a bit surprised at how strongly worded these headlines are against TikTok.